Hello, welcome to Distant Whispers. This is a channel where stories find you, and I set out to set up this channel as a platform for people like me who love reading and writing short stories, particularly stories with a strange and unexpected ending. So if you have any stories in mind and you love writing, please jot them down. I'm looking for stories between 11 and 1500 words, and I'll be happy to narrate them on this channel and give you an on-screen caption credit for the effort and time that you put in. Let's get a community going where people can share their stories, and because there'll be a whole host of people, not all the stories will be the same, and we can hopefully satisfy the needs for lots of different people. Anyway, so that's the story. So short stories with unexplained, sometimes unusual, weird endings. If you have any ideas, the contact details for this channel will be below. Please feel free to send emails through as and when you have the time and inclination. That's about it. If you like it, please give us a like, share with as many people as you can, and don't forget to subscribe so we can really get this channel up and running to where we'd like it to be. In the meantime, let's join the trail. The stories that I'm looking for can be completely your own. They can be based on urban legends. They can be based on anything that creeps across your own imagination. It's just something unusual, if you want to recreate a story that you've heard from years ago, that's also fine. We're just looking for stories in bite-sized chunks that people can listen to, hopefully just before they fall asleep. Anyway, we're going to kick off tonight's story with a friend of mine. His name was Lance, and this is in his memory. He was the guy in the first story that the story is based on, and he told me this incident which bugged him for quite some time. So let's get straight into it. Let's meet Lance.
Lance hated this stretch of road, especially at this time of night. It wasn't called a graveyard shift for nothing. The road was long and dark and flanked by deserted paddocks of thorn trees, bleached brittle by the sun and wind. It was a forgotten ribbon of tar stretching endlessly between job sites and home, Petersburg to Johannesburg, every week until the project was done. The only signs of life out here were the distant flickering lights of lonely farmhouses. Lance's Hilux double cab rattled beneath him, an aging but loyal beast. Tools jostled in the tray, and the heater muttered and wheezed as it pushed a lukewarm breath into the cab, trying its best to heat up the environment. Lance rubbed his calloused hands together and flexed his fingers, feeling the sting of cold creep in through the seams of his jacket. It had been the last job of the night, a broken blast freezer. It had left him damp and aching, coated in a chemical chill of ammonia and old ice. Lance wasn't afraid of the cold, not really. Years in refrigeration had made him immune to it, or so he liked to think. He'd once been locked in a walk-in freezer for 2.5 hours during a power failure. When his team eventually opened the freezer, he was sitting on an overturned crate whistling Dixie and sipping coffee from his thermos. That was Lance, steady, grounded, not the sort to rattle easily. He passed the turn of Tumolna's Hollow, a narrow slip of road curling away into the darkness. A red warning light blinked on his dashboard. There was a door ajar. He frowned. There was no reason for an open door. He leaned across, checked the passenger side, but it was shut tight. He glanced in the mirror. The tray canopy was latched and padlocked. He slowed down, pulled off onto the shoulder, and gravel crunched under the tires. He switched the hazards on and stepped out. The air bit his face with a sharpness that didn't quite match the season. Winter wasn't due for another month, but this cold had a bite. It wasn't just the temperature, it was something else, a sharpness, an edge to it. He circled the truck. There, the back left door. Barely ajar, not wide, but just enough. He sighed, annoyed at his own negligence. This is not what he would normally do. He probably clipped it loading his torque wrench or crowbar. He swung the door shut with a solid thump and tested the handle. It was locked. Back in the cab, he switched off the hazards, rolled back onto the road and settled into the silence. It was just another thing, no big deal. But 5 minutes later, the change came. Not a sound or movement, it was a feeling. The heater was still on, but the warmth was gone. His breath fogged on the windscreen. The inside of the cab felt wrong, like the air had been vacuumed out and replaced with something still. Lance rubbed his hands again. The cold air was different from any cold that he'd known. It didn't make him shiver. It made his insides slow, his bones, his thoughts. It felt like the kind of cold you find in places that were meant to stay closed. And then, in the mirror, just a flicker. Lance flinched, twisted around to look and almost drove off the road. There was nothing. Just shadows and toolbox latches. It's just your imagination, he told himself. Trick of the light, a reflection. But his hands were shaking now, not from the cold though, from something else. His eyes dropped to the ignition to where his St. Christopher medal used to hang. It was gone, accidentally broken 2 weeks ago, and he'd meant to replace it. He leaned forward and turned the heater dial to full, but there was no warmth at all. He didn't dare look in the mirror, afraid of what he might see. Something was in the cab with him, he could feel it. Sat beside him now like a passenger. He didn't see it, he didn't need to. It wasn't doing anything. Not yet. It was just there. He stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched, watching the pinprick lights of Johannesburg rise like a line of burning coals on the horizon. The Hilux felt heavy, sluggish, like it was dragging something behind it, like a truck was fighting the road. 10 minutes later, as he passed the Blake's Ridge turnoff, the chime went off again. The same door. Lance didn't stop this time. He didn't even look. He knew that he had closed that door properly. He just drove, hands tight on the wheel, knuckles white, and his heart thudding behind his ribs like a wrench in a dryer. When he pulled into the engine garage on Holston Street in Johannesburg, under halogen lights surrounded by normalcy and diesel fumes, the feeling vanished. Just like that. The air snapped back. It was real again. He climbed out, the warmth from the engine wrapped around him like a blanket, and his breath came easier. He walked slowly around to the back left door. It was open. Just slightly. He stared at it for a long time and then deliberately opened it wide. There was nothing unusual inside, just jumper cables, a tool satchel, a lunchbox and a coffee flask. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing appeared to be missing. But the air inside the cab, it had been different, he knew that now. And whatever had come in, it had left. It didn't need to leave the door open to leave. It had chosen to. He closed the door gently, like he didn't want to wake something. Back in the cab, he sat for a long time before starting the engine. He didn't speak. He didn't turn on the radio. He just drove home and never took Milner's Hollow Road ever again.